My name is Guillaume Hue. I'm a partner at Archery Strategy Consulting, and I have more than 20 years of professional experience in aerospace, defense, and air transportation. At the current stage, sustainable aviation fuels are considered to be one of the key levers to decarbonize aviations and reach refuel aviation or net zero emission IATA objectives by 2050. And from the different contributions to aviation decarbonization, we assume they will account for more than half of the overall impact, far ahead of new technologies such as hydrogen, for example. And last but not least, they are compatible with the last generation engines and existing distribution infrastructure, which obviously is a considerable advantage to accelerate the process of decarbonization. Bio-SAF technology is mature enough. Production has started in Europe with several projects in France, in Netherlands, or in Italy. Food-based generations is contested for obvious reason and will rapidly be replaced by organic and oil wastes, while a generation based on algae is more expected for 2050 for industrial development. The question is more about the availability of biomass and which parts will be dedicated to transportation and especially aviation. And what we estimate is that Bio-SAF could account for roughly 10 to 20% of the SAF needed in Europe by 2050. And that's why synthetic SAF, or eSAF, produced from the combination of carbon dioxide and hydrogen, will absolutely be necessary to comply with the European mandate. eSAF technology is arriving to maturity. First industrial projects are emerging with some challenges, of course, such as being able to capture carbon at scale, but we can be relatively confident for the future. Two main barriers still exist, though. First, contrary to Bio-SAF, which can be produced from existing refineries with some adaptations, eSAF production requires new infrastructures and massive investments to be produced on industrial scale. And second, as for Bio-SAF, uncertainty comes from more the availability of enough inputs, I mean huge quantity of low-carbon electricity in the present case. Until 2035-2040, energy suppliers might be able to provide expected quantities of low-carbon electricity in France, where the nuclear power plants should be able to deliver, in normal condition of use, of course. But after 2040, expected quantities will be much more important to comply with the European mandate's trajectory and will require massive additional investments on which we don't have a good visibility as of today. We're convinced that the commitment of all parties is necessary to meet expectation. First, public authorities are expected to continue to provide a regulatory framework, but also incentives to the markets, because it's also a question of sovereignty. Subsidies to accelerate investments in eSAF production infrastructures, regulation to secure the allocation of inputs toward the air transport industry, support for airlines which cannot absorb the price gap with fossil kerosene, and measures to guarantee a level playing field for European airlines, especially versus Gulf carriers. Second, energy suppliers on their side are also expected to support the development of SAF by investing in production capacities and helping startups to scale up. And finally, aeronautical industry as a whole is also expected to position and act to prime the pump by securing SAF supply with long-term contracts and commitments, plus potentially when relevant investment in the value chain to increase control, by convincing governments and energy suppliers to secure enough input quantities, such as biomass or low-carbon electricity for aviation, and by anticipating new business models where different categories of energy coexist according to the fleet or network, with limited quantities of SAF to be dedicated to the most relevant usages, such as longer flights, for example.